Well, good morning, everybody. I'd just like to introduce you to Ellie Tswei of Krav Maga, and please, Ellie, in your own words, tell us what you do, your words, and how long you've been doing it for.
So yeah, thank you for having me today. This is so exciting to have this opportunity.
Uh,
So Krava Maga Cornwall is a local to Cornwall self-defense school that my father and I run. We've been running for 12 years now, which is insane to think about. And we basically put a focus on helping people develop in their self-preservation skills in a really raw, pure, effective way. There's no fancy flying head kicks in our classes. There's no spinning back fists, as cool as they are. We've kept it very pure to making sure you can get home safely. And we really love doing it. It's been great.
wow, wow. And what inspired you to get involved in this particular line of work?
So when I think I was 12, and
Mhm.
dad, myself, and a couple of sisters, we used to train Muay Thai with touch gloves in Penzance when they were in Penzance. And that was great. We loved it. Excellent form of MMA. And then dad decided to look a bit further into how he could realistically protect people on the streets. He
Mm.
found Krav Maga. He got qualified with the British Krav Maga Association and later requalified with Nima Man from the Israeli Defense Forces in a system called CT 707. When he did this, I then joined the club as a student at 15, and then got completely addicted to it, really, completely hooked into the feeling of being able to protect myself, look after myself, offer a little bit more protection to those around me if I needed to.
Mm.
It's just spiraled upwards from there.
Wow, 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 wow. And I would say at the moment there, I'm loving your journey, hearing your story, and obviously you started about like 12 years ago, so a lot has happened in history, I guess in the last few years, especially with COVID,
Mm.
and so what I would ask you is that how did COVID-19 impact your business, and what actions did you do or did you take to overcome those challenges?
So COVID was a real big challenge for us because Krav Maga, which is Israeli self-defense, translates to contact combat.
Okay.
There was no gray area for us. We could not make contact, so we couldn't do Krav Maga. And like I mentioned, with not doing certain moves, there's no, we haven't diluted what we teach by anything. So we couldn't just run fitness classes because that's not what Krav Maga is. We couldn't do Zoom classes because it's contact and it's specialized. So we have to make sure I'm there to, or dad's there to teach and instruct one-on-one.
Yes.
So we had no grey area. We had to shut, and we were just closed
Wow.
from that March until the following July because it got pushed back. So that entire time, although we could offer advice and some support to some people, students who were going through things at home, we couldn't we couldn't function, we couldn't operate. So we had to completely close for that entire time. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah. It
Wow.
was
Wow.
hard.
Wow. So, I mean, be closed for that entire time over a 2 year period. So, how did you come through that? How did you navigate through that period of closure and reopening?
So before COVID, we hadn't registered as a limited company because ultimately it was um, just a social club that we had together, and we banded together and we all got together and trained, and that was fine.
Yeah.
And a lot of clubs run like that, and that's quite normal. Um, During that time, though, I really noticed the lack of Krav Maga Cornwall. It was so ingrained in my life, so I
Okay.
noticed that I wanted to make more of it. So I registered the company as a limited company. I joined the Chamber of Commerce, and I started to take it a little bit more seriously and network and branch out and see how we could develop it as a full functioning business,
Right.
so that when we could open again in July, we came back with a bang. Um, and we had a fantastic year, a really great year. So
Come
it
on.
was worth every minute of patience. It really paid off, and now we're in a great standing. And it's really great to have a fully functioning business in something we're so clearly passionate about.
Wow, wow, that's great. And so I guess while I ask you, I mean, for you as a business leader as well, I mean, what are your learnings? You know, what did you find about yourself, especially, you know, during this period, you know, this challenging period that you did have with COVID?
Such a big question, isn't it? What did you learn about yourself?
Yeah.
I learned how important it was for me to be able to help other people and to be able to be there to support other people in any way I can. I'll meet my students for a coffee if they just need somebody else to say, you're going to be okay.
Mm,
Um, and being able to offer that support. And then the physical elements of self-preservation became very apparent to me. Working in security as well, it's hand in hand with Krav Maga, it's protecting people.
hmm
So for me, it's just what I do. Um, in learning, what I really had to overcome was not looking at the other clubs around. So other Krav Maga clubs who were running Zoom classes or developing their own things throughout COVID and then coming back to reality with that. Other similar forms of self-defense or MMA or sports clubs around Cornwall as well. And
hmm
I had to focus right in on the bits that count and matter to me and how I can authentically build on that. And I think that's really started to prove itself, to be honest.
Oh, great, great. And you know, I will ask you on the back of that, what are your main challenges that you're facing now as a business owner? And how you're overcoming those challenges at this present time?
It's always learning. It's an
Okay.
uphill learning battle. My biggest struggle, I think, is just growth of the club because
Okay.
ultimately it's a very small business structure between my dad and I. We do all of the marketing and branding and the running of the club and the planning, the finances, everything,
Right.
which is great because it means that it is through and through, it's us all the way. Uh,
hmm
but Krav Maga in itself is still a very niche concept.
Okay.
Not many people understand it. So we read in the news all the time about various different threatening attacks that are happening. And we turn around and go, okay, cool, here's your specialized boot camp or 6-week course to defend against that subject, and no one turns up.
Wow.
It's either not cool, bit scary, never going to happen to that person. And so growth, organic growth is quite difficult to get the students in, let alone the current climate of people not wanting to pay any extra for anything. Self-defense lessons might still seem a bit frivolous. So we're really trying to break that barrier of being accessible to people and also being spoken about and known about by people
hmm hmm
for exactly what we do. Because we are particularly specialized, even in Krav Maga, it gets nicher and nicher for us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, and I guess when it gets niche, like I say, you know, it's that pure speciality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And well, actually, Ellie, I mean, because it seems like you're really passionate about what you do. You know, I love the passion, and I'm hearing from you, and I'm picking that up as well. Um, what is really inspiring you? What is inspiring you as a business leader?
I've had a few students over the years who have turned to me and told me stories where they've overcome something because of Krav Maga or the confidence that they've learnt because of it.
Yeah,
And it's in those tiny moments that it's all worth it. And you want to go again and again for as many months or years as it's going to be until somebody else tells you that.
yeah,
Sometimes I compare it to, I don't have children, but I see my friends with kids and all the struggles that you always hear about parenthood. And then there's that one moment that makes it all worth it. It feels like that running a business and running this business. I love it and it's hard work. And
yeah.
then there's one little gem of a moment that motivates me and inspires me to carry on and do more and more and more and build it and get the word out and keep people safe as best I can.
That's great. That's great. And you know, with that, you know, in this hard work, and that's something that's quite that's poured out of me with me. And so, you know, with the current climate today, you know, the
Mm.
financial crisis, energy crisis, you name it, all that. Um, how are you as a business navigating that?
day by day.
Yeah.
When eating that day by day. So there are different angles of it, really. We're looking at the rise of hall hire,
Yeah.
because we don't have our own space. We go and train as and where we get invited, or we can make it work.
Okay.
So hall hire costs are rising. And at the same time, I'm running this business not for profit, but through passion. And so I'll happily drop the costs of people to train if it means that they can train, or I build different payment plans to make it more accessible to people.
Yeah.
Or we always offer our first classes free so that people can come along and see how they find it. But then I have a habit of, if I see somebody I know will benefit and might not be in a position to commit, I have probably a bad business habit, but I feel morally that it's okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep extending, and then the next week might be a free trial, and then the next week might be their free
Oh,
trial.
right. Okay. Yeah.
I just want them to learn. I just want them to be safe.
Yeah.
And day by day is the only way I can really navigate that.
Okay.
But we can do things like, as the weather's getting better, we can run our classes outside, so we can cut the costs. Or I don't need to offer limited edition t-shirts every season.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
There are ways.
There are ways. That's way around it. And let me ask you, I mean, if you had to start all over again, yeah, from day one, start scratch, what would you do differently?
Ooh. I would focus on the excitement and the joy and the confidence that it's brought me, and that I now translate into my classes. I would do that from day one, as opposed to Krava Maga is this big, scary fighting club, and we need to fit that profile. We don't. It's not a big, scary club. We're actually really nice. We have black and red branding. I absolutely inject that joy, and we're so lucky with our students. I say this all the time, but we have such a great club from all walks of life, men, women. We've got a fantastic ratio, about 60-40 men and women, which is so cool.
Yes.
And they all come into the club, they leave any baggage at the door. It's like an unspoken rule. They leave it at the door, and they help each other, and they train together.
Yes.
It's 90 minutes of magic,
Wow. Wow.
I would really push to make that more known and more accepted and more celebrated from day one, rather than the initial days of the pressure to learn to fight.
Yeah.
Because
Great. And I will ask you, last thing I'll ask you is, what advice would you give to, let's say, an 18-year-old who wants to start their own business? What would advice you would give to them?
Figure out exactly what makes you the happiest, and start following that. It's got to make you happy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. I love that. That's great. Well, that concludes the interview. Ellie, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed